2 billion people around the world do not have adequate shelter. But one company is looking to change that with the use of 3D printing. A startup called Icon has released their plan to print a 650 square foot house made of cement in just under a day. Best of all, these homes will only cost $4,000.
If you're watching this channel, you're probably going down the rabbit hole of 3D printed construction. Maybe you even heard about a $10,000 3D printed house. I'm here to bust that myth today. My name is Jared Gross, and for the past year, I've been traveling the country and parts of the world to see these brand new 3D printed construction projects. I've also had many of the founders of these companies on my podcast. Through my many discussions with them and researching their construction sites while the progress was underway, I've been able to pick up a ton about this industry. So, with all the plumbing installed, they told me that it cost them $10,000 US to build this, which is strikingly similar to the $10,000 that Icon Build claims that it cost them to build a similar 3D printed house. It's really difficult to get to the bottom of this because the companies want to protect their proprietary information and not give away too much to their competitors. I owe a lot of the information I've been able to gather to the audience, you guys. From watching the videos, liking and subscribing, you've made it possible for me to access these companies that weren't paying any attention to me before. Now that they're part of the audience, we're able to get access to information and projects that I just wasn't able to reach in the past. I can't wait to show you where this channel is going to be going soon. I have some really incredible things planned coming up. There's a pervasive rumor haunting the 3D printed construction industry. The first sight most people get of 3D printed houses is the claim of a $10,000 or $4,000 3D printed house. This leads to a huge number of people contacting me and requesting a house built for them for $10,000. I'm making this video today really because I'm pissed about the quality of journalism these days. Journalists used to hold themselves to a standard for presenting information to the public in the most truthful and objective way possible. But lately, people are just sitting behind computers and reporting on what other people are writing. Don't do any due diligence or research. They write an article in 30 seconds and base it totally off their opinions or their gut feelings. Meanwhile, they're covering politics, celebrities, and anything under the sun. They don't care about knowing the details about their specific topics, and they're not experts in their field. So when they're just pumping out articles trying to maximize their words per minute, how can you expect to get any real information from them? They see their Twitter feed and they assume they can just make headlines out of somebody's 140 word whatever. Personally, I'm not an accredited journalist. I'm operating by myself, and so I don't even know what the journalism standards are. But I only really pay attention to primary sources. So unless I can get out there, see it for myself, and see firsthand evidence of the project, then it's hard for me to believe claims that a building can be printed for whatever price at whatever speed. When I met with Icon founder Alex LaRue, I asked him about the $4,000 house because I saw that article so many times. He said that it was just a complete mishap. Some people said there was a rumor, there was a rounding error, or some people accused Icon of lying about the price, but that's just not the case. I went and talked to them. Their PR team and founding team never told the journalist this $4,000 house number. In podcast episodes with Cobod founder and CEO Henrik and the 20 additive manufacturing team, we discussed this $10,000, $4,000 house thing.
Which is not surprising. When you do something for the first time, it's bloody difficult. So there was no surprise there. But the consequence was, of course, when ABC News picked it up on the 6 o'clock news, and they had 1 million downloads of the video the next day, and they received 5,000 emails the next 3 days, mainly from Americans, asking them to come and print a building in the backyard for $10,000. And how do you do that when it's all bullshit what you've been saying, right? They didn't answer a single one of these emails. And unfortunately, this kind of behavior, lack of response, is also quite characteristic of this industry.
There is actually a real issue in this 3D printing world right now, is that there has been some like really horribly false claims that were made about what this technology can do from a price point, from a deliverable point, from a timing, and just availability of this technology. And it's made it so that there's a lot of people who think that they can have a house for $5,000 next week if they just phone us up and we send a printer over. And so, you know, being able to make it known that like all technology has pros and cons to it, and if the people are aware of what kind of, you know, failings these things can potentially have, we can have a much more mature conversation with people about how to integrate this really amazing like step forward in the construction industry into their toolbox, but not from like false expectations or from the sort of, you know, like clickbait or hype that's been going on around 3D printing. It's actually, I think, almost held the industry back. For sure, a couple of companies got some big funding raises for it, but you know, their investors are going to be a little choked when they find out that like that $6,000 house is actually $60,000, or you know, there's these types of like hiding truths. I know it's really common in a lot of things in our current time, where fake news is thrown around as often as Elon Musk's name has been thrown around. But you know, if we can educate people at the same time as get them excited about working with us, then that's kind of a win-win for us.
They were quick to say it's a farce, although they do admit the potential benefits that it may have had in marketing and getting this new industry out to the world in an exciting clickbait way. That's the problem with clickbait. People look at the title and get excited, and it ultimately disappoints. So now that this technology is improving and reaching a mature stage, it's time that we reduce those clickbait titles and start presenting the actual facts so that people can get excited about pursuing realistic projects. Lately, consulting calls have been a great way for me to fund my research and journey to provide this content around 3D printed construction. If you'd like to schedule a consulting call with me, you can check out the link below and go to jaredgross.youcanbook.me and schedule an hour with me when I'm free. The real benefit of these calls is I get an understanding for the project that you want to complete, and so I can recommend the best printer. I can also help you get in touch with the company. I know that can sometimes be pretty challenging. In my videos, I like to keep a very positive sentiment towards all of the companies working to innovate the industry and automate construction. But in private, I can be much more critical and analytical as to how each company may serve your project specifically. I've had many of the founders from this industry on my podcast, the Automate Construction Podcast, which is now available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the different places you listen to podcasts. I think there's like half a dozen or a dozen different spots. So check that out. Check out my website, automate.construction. You can subscribe to my email list and get access to, I actually haven't sent out an email yet because I want to keep the email inbox sacred. I know that my email addresses get bombarded with marketing content. So for me, I really only want to provide the most high value and interesting content. That way people are excited to open the email every time. I really just wanted to make this video to clear up some misconceptions. Hopefully you don't get too upset that you're not able to get a house for $4,000, $10,000. You can tell clearly it didn't dissuade me too much from wanting to learn more and pursuing this industry even further. The more people understand the realities of where this industry is today and where it could potentially head for the future, the better off we are, rather than living with false expectations. I wouldn't rule it out 100%. That this technology could reach something like a $10,000 shelter some point in our lifetimes. Here's a quick shot with the background in focus so you can see that beautiful sunset on the lake. Let me know how you feel about this background for video. Do you like an inside setting, an outside setting? I kind of like shooting at the golden hour, at sunrise, sunset, just because you get a more unique kind of lighting. We may even have some fish jumping back there.